Welcome to BizBuzz on IndyStar.com, where each Wednesday we talk all things business in Central Indiana. I'm your host, star business writer Dan Lee, and today we're here with Elizabeth Friedland, account executive with local advertising and PR firm Trendy Minds. Now, if you've been using Twitter, Facebook, Smaller Indiana, other social media, you may well have come across Elizabeth. She's a very frequent user of such technologies, and so wanted to bring her in and talk about the trend, the phenomena that is Twitter and other social media. Now, Elizabeth, I checked recently, and you've sent out almost 3,200 tweets. Now, I'm a cyclist, so I follow Lance Armstrong, a Twitter addict, and that's just a few hundred behind Lance, and so a very heavy user of Twitter. And so I just want to ask you to start off, you Twitter both personally and through Trendy Minds, your firm.
Right.
Have you seen any actual payoff from this? I think it's one of the debates. Is this just kind of fluff being put out there, or is it general brand building, self-promotion? Has it led to any new accounts, deals?
Sure. Well, I think with Twitter, there are certainly some people out there who are talking just for the sake of talking, who want to, win a popularity contest, be it real or perceived. And there is a good amount of spam out there and commercial junk that you have to filter through. But there is real business being done on Twitter. As far as Trendy Minds is concerned, we've had 3 clients recently who we've connected with or who have followed us on social media and then approached us to do an RFP or to consult with them. So there is business to be had, for sure.
Okay. And then, as I mentioned, you tweet a lot on your own, and in fact have more than 660 followers, which is a pretty good number. And now you tweet a lot away from work. And for example, one recent tweet from a few days ago, you wrote Twitter, and you got to keep them to 140 characters. You wrote Twitter tip of the day: don't hit on people over Twitter. Kind of tacky, right?
Yes, it is kind of tacky. I do tweet professionally and personally. I think social media is all about authenticity. People want you to be real and authentic. And so I don't like to separate the professional Elizabeth and the personal Elizabeth. I am what you see, and I want both my clients and my friends or people who are in between to get a consistent picture of myself. So I don't have a separate account for professional or personal use. I kind of integrate it all in there. There are some things I will never tweet or blog or post about, and as you saw, I'm not a fan of people who try to hit on other people over Twitter. So there certainly are some guidelines, but I try to be real, and what you see is what you get kind of thing.
Now, another area you've tweeted about or posted online is, for example, you say you lean left politically. That's on most of your social media sites.
To put it nicely, yes.
Yeah. And now, oftentimes in the workplace, people may be more hesitant to give away their political views. You're not. So how do you kind of balance your work life and social life when it comes to that? That could potentially, for example, you could be chasing a client that is right-leaning.
Absolutely. Well, I think in the advertising agency or the PR industry, it's a little more laid back. Trendy Minds specifically, we bill ourselves as a group of young, energetic, creative, but experienced professionals. And so my agency is really great about knowing that we have a professional life and we have a personal life, and they don't try to censor us, no matter how different our views may be on things than our clients or our other coworkers. So I think that's fantastic. And then as far as if I have a client who may disagree with my views, and I have had some, I try to respect all views, and I would hope they do the same. And I am confident enough in my skills as a publicist and as an account executive that I can work on any account, whether I personally disagree with the beliefs of the client or not. So I think it just takes a confidence in your professional abilities to really put it out there.
Okay. Now, another issue is kind of the generational gap. Now, you're a 20-something professional. I'm not. And, back when I was in college, some people actually came to college with a typewriter. We carried around 3.5-inch discs. That was our internet network. We'd, we didn't have digital music. We'd wait in line to buy U2's new CD, Achtung Baby. So it was a while ago. So is there just a really fundamental difference in how people in their 20s versus people in their 30s, 40s, 50s use these social media?
I would actually argue no. In fact, if you look at the numbers, the largest growing demographic on both Twitter and Facebook are those that are over 40. And of course, that's all relative, whether you see that as young or old. But it isn't just a teenager in a 20-something game. In fact, I was guest lecturing at IUPUI the other month, and I asked how many kids in the audience had a Twitter account, and nobody raised their hand. So I think it's something that teenagers and even college students are kind of shying away from, and it's becoming more of a professional and a business-related tool. Some people are even arguing, in fact, that Facebook is losing its cool factor because the teens and the 20-somethings are dropping off, and it's becoming sort of the stay-at-home mom and the grandmother type of thing to catch up on the relatives. So, but I think more importantly, it bridges the generation gap, because now you can have conversations between generations that otherwise may not have been connecting in the same forum.
Right. Now, what are your personal biggest do's and don'ts on Twitter or other
Sure.
social media, but specifically Twitter?
Well, I think number one is to be authentic, whatever that means to you. It goes back to the whole not separating the personal and professional, and then it also gets into ethics, which we can get into later.
Right.
But I think it's important also to realize your audience. There are some people on Twitter who seem to have a very business-minded focus, and then there will be a tweet that sort of seems out of place where they talk about something extremely personal. So it's important to know your audience, know what they expect from you, to be consistent with the messages you're delivering, and I think it's important not to spam.
Yeah.
I'm guilty of that myself sometimes, but you have to keep in mind that what may be very interesting to you may not be very interesting to 2,000 other people out there.
Right.
So to edit your messages goes back to that journalistic principle of editing, editing, editing.
What about too many Twitters? Like if you pull up your Twitter screen and you have like 10 Twitters from the same person that push down other things they may
Sure.
want to read.
Yeah, I block those people, and it drives me crazy. I think it drives a lot of people crazy. So it's important to tweet something that's relevant, but to also participate in the conversation. I think if you're new to Twitter, you're not quite sure how to handle it, if you just sit back and watch what people are saying, and if you can participate in the conversation and treat it just like a cocktail party, you wouldn't want to be the obnoxious person who's talking over everybody, but you also don't want to be the person who's in the corner that's not interacting. So you want to find that happy medium.
Okay. Now, when you go to journalism school, if you study news writing, you study journalism ethics, and PR has its own set of ethics.
Sure.
And online, are things different? You've recently blogged about the issue of ghost blogging, where a PR person may write a blog that really purports to be written by a client, a CEO or someone else, but is in fact written by them.
Right.
You think that's unethical?
I do. Unfortunately, I think social media has sort of loosened our ethical standards, which I don't think should be the case. My background is in journalism. That's what I studied in college. It's how I got my start. And that's how a lot of PR professionals got their start as well. Social media is media, just as print media is media or broadcast media is media. And so I think these same ethical standards should apply. I'm sure if you outsourced your column to somebody else but put your name on it, you would be in a world of trouble. So I think the same thing applies to social media. You need to be authentic and transparent. And it's a new industry, so there aren't necessarily a set of standards that are written down someplace that we can all see. But the Public Relations Society of America, the United Kingdom's largest public relations society, have all said that transparency and honesty is paramount. And I think if we keep that in mind with all communication, then we'll be okay.
Okay.
Yeah.
Very good. Now, last question I want to ask you is, both here in Indy, Central Indiana, but also worldwide or nationwide, who would be a couple Twitterers, Twitter people that you would recommend people checking out? Do you think they use it the best, most effective?
Sure. I think Firebelly, they're a local agency here in town. They do a fantastic job of integrating social media with their clients, but also of tweeting really well. They have a great mix of personal tweets and professional tweets. They throw in some photos, they throw in some videos. It's always interesting. I know we talked earlier about Scotty's Brewhouse downtown. Right. They're sort of seen as a leader in using social media for the restaurant world. And he tweets about his specials and about the menu, but also personally, again, achieving that great mix.
All right. Well, you've been watching BizBuzz on IndyStar.com. I'm Star business writer Dan Lee. This is Elizabeth Friedland from Trendy Minds, and thank you very much for joining us. Please join us each Wednesday.